Welcome to the Firehouse Yak, the podcast where the flames of knowledge and camaraderie burn bright. Your host is Peter Matthews, Firehouse's editor-in-chief. Join us as we dive into the hottest topics for firefighters and fire chiefs alike, from cutting-edge fireground operations to the fuel of motivation and leadership in the fire service. Each show features the names you know or the people you need to know as they share their thoughts and insights. Get ready for a great conversation that fuels your passion and ignites your desire to grow in the fire service. This is the Firehouse Yak podcast, where the fire service comes to talk, share, and inspire. Let's turn up the heat, or maybe just turn up that dial. Hello, and welcome back to the Firehouse Yak. I'm Peter Matthews, editor of Firehouse. Thanks for joining us. If you're seeing this on video, this is definitely the first time we've done the Firehouse Yak video-wise. We've done just an audio podcast the last few years. We wanted to get some more video content, so we switched over to this platform. I'm working on a better background. I apologize for that. It's not as cool as Ryan's today and some of the other ones I've seen. We're working on it. If you know me, I'm a little slow to get some stuff done from time to time, but I do want to apologize too to those folks who've been listening. I know we're out every other week with the holidays and trying to get some guests lined up, some incidents going on. We're a little behind schedule. I apologize. We will be back on schedule every 2 weeks with the show. So thanks for your patience there. We will put the videos on YouTube. We'll put them on the site. We do have a Firehouse Magazine YouTube page. We'll be putting some of the teasers and stuff like that online as well on different social platforms. So please go ahead and look for that. The podcast will remain the same as well. Go to firehouse.com/podcast. You can find the podcast there. Couple of housekeeping items as we get going. Really excited. This month is actually not officially the beginning of the 50th anniversary, but this year will be our 50th anniversary. The September-October issue, it came out in 1976 of Firehouse from Dennis Smith. And we've been meeting with the folks who were, fortunately, we still have a lot of the longtime contributors who are still with us. We've lost a lot of folks, but we've been meeting with the Hall of Famers. We've been meeting with a lot of longtime writers, getting some ideas, some content. We want to make sure we don't overlook anything. Unfortunately, I've been here just over half the history of the brand, which is kind of cool, but it also upsets you on the other side of the shift or the paradigm there. I've been here for 26 years as we celebrate our 50th. There's a lot I remember, but every time we have these conversations, there's a lot you forget, right? And as much as I love working here, there's things that are monumental that have passed. But again, you look at the industry that we cover, there are so many big incidents. It's newsworthy every single day. And it's kind of crazy, right? I think I'm remembering more of the small personal stories as opposed to some of those larger scale incidents. So we are working on that 50th anniversary coverage for the year. Starting in March, we're going to start rolling out interviews with contributors, readers, and other folks that had, different parts of a play in the last 50 years of Firehouse. If you are a longtime reader, I'd love to hear from you. My email is peter@firehouse.com. Would love to talk to you, whether it's a video, it's an article, we just get some feedback from you. We want to hear your stories, right? If you read Firehouse or you attended one of our conferences, and saved a life, whether it was a skill that you learned that you saved the life of a civilian or something that you picked up in a magazine you used yourself. One of my favorite stories from that, and it comes from Mark McLeese, who was a captain at Rescue One in Syracuse, New York at the time. He went on to be chief. He had an article published about a bailout technique. If memory serves correct, and we will have him on later this year. The person read the story on Monday. Talked to his colleague about it in the volunteer station. Tuesday night, they had a working fire. They ended up bailing out using that technique. They had never trained on it. They read that article, right? And next thing you know, they're using it. Letters to the editors aren't a thing anymore. For those of you that don't know about that, letters were when people used to give you feedback. It was an early version of social media. I think in the fire service, believe it or not, it was actually pretty cleaned up. I mean, it was really, hey, thanks, this really helped me out, or I'd like the counterpoint. It's not the social media feedback that we have today. But those letters to the editors, that there's so many of them that we received in the years that I was at the magazine side. So we'd love to hear your story. So again, shoot me an email, peter@firehouse.com. Would love to hear your feedback about the 50th and how Firehouse has made an impact on your career in the fire service. Today's guest is Ryan Pennington. Ryan, if you don't know, Ryan's a longtime friend of mine. He's a longtime friend of Firehouse. We we met a long time ago, I guess, right? We said a long time.
Long time ago.
And I really, I could say I love Ryan. He's just been a very important part of my life for the last 20, almost 20 years now. And It's just been exciting to see him go through his journey there in Charleston in West Virginia. So, Ryan, for the few folks who don't know who you are, can you give us a little background about yourself, who you are, what you've been doing?
My name is Ryan Pennington. I'm currently serving as a battalion chief, a citywide tour commander for the Alpha Shift for the Charleston, West Virginia Fire Department, where I've served for this is coming up on year 20 with the Charleston, West Virginia Fire Department. I started in a small local volunteer fire department here in West Virginia, the Institute Volunteer Fire Department, which I am still a lifetime member of, and moved on to become a paramedic for a local ambulance service. Started out in a small combination department called the Nitro West Virginia Fire Department. History serves you right. We had the Nitro Tire Fire. Google it. You will be quite amazed with it. It was quite the event. And then in 2007, I started my journey in the capital city here at Charleston. Pretty busy, kind of metro-ish, suburban-ish interface department. We stay pretty busy there, and I took over July 28th as the A Shift Citywide Tour Commander and Battalion Chief, which I'm super happy to be in that role right now.
That's great, and congratulations on that promotion there. I've had a chance to ride with you both at Institute with a little blinky light, and then also actually we took in that basement fire that one time. I've had the chance to ride in Charleston, and coming from larger cities my entire life, I wouldn't consider Charleston a metro city, but Charleston is very much a metro city. It's a very very interesting city to see. That the daytime population versus the nighttime population.
Mhm.
But you definitely have all sorts of neighborhoods, right? And that's the diversity that the firefighters love to see is that you can have the high rise district, you have the low rent district, you've got everything in between. I've been there, I don't know, what, 4 or 5 times now. Never caught a fire with you. Done a lot of EMS runs, done a lot of other
Well, I mean,
runs.
there was the one fire, but it was a Taco Bell drive-through monitor that was on fire. So
That's
we got all
right. That's
hyped up
right.
for the Taco Bell on fire. But anyway,
It was a good size up. We got to pull that audio. That's true. We saw that. Then I tried to go to the one in Corridor G, but I couldn't find it in the hills. West Virginia is a beautiful place. When we first met, the typical West Virginia jokes. But they say wild and wonderful, and it truly is. It's a beautiful state. I remember after my first Firehouse Expo, right? We had some crazy transitions here at Firehouse. And I just needed to have some downtime. We had a chance to go through New River Gorge and all sorts
mm,
of areas in West Virginia. It was a phenomenal trip. I want to say thanks for that because that was a good debrief for me. But really, for those folks who have those jokes about West Virginia, they're true. But it really is a beautiful state, and there's some wonderful people down there as well. So, and you've introduced me to a lot of great guys in from that area since then too.
you gave me
So,
the best quote about my area. This is a small town that's got big city problems because of the interface with the high-rise district and with the lower income section of town. But then we've got the McMansions up on the top. And he's like, "You've
yeah,
got the big city issues. You're just a small town." And
yeah.
a fun fact here in Charleston, West Virginia, we are 4 hours from I think it was like a third or a fourth of the population on the East Coast because we're so centrally located. So we
Wow.
get a lot of
Okay.
transient traffic through here each day.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's a great place to visit if you haven't had the chance to go and see, and the whole area is cool. One of my favorite things is flying into to
Jaeger
Jaeger,
Airport.
and you see I mean you literally you pretty much touch the mountains as you're coming in, but you literally see the people on the four wheelers and the side by sides on the trails like they really have embraced. I mean, I lived in Minnesota, they embraced winter out there, winter outdoor activities. West Virginia, it's all, it's just it's a pretty cool place. So definitely
So
check it out.
the big movement in my state came along with the ATV. So like the four wheelers you drive like cars, and so we've got the Hatfield McCoy Trail that goes from southern West Virginia to northern West Virginia. I want to say it's 2 or 3, 4, 500 miles that you'll never see another person, and then the strip mines. So we're a big coal mining industry in our state. And every time that they clear off a strip mine and they repurpose that, that turns into ATV heaven. So if you're into UTVs, ATVs, four wheelers, we've got the place for you. About the only place that I've really seen that has this amount of trails is when we flew into Boise, Idaho. Between Boise, Idaho, and Charlie West, it's pretty much identical. As you're flying in, only thing you see is ATV trails. So if you're into that
Wow.
kind of thing, come to our state. We welcome you openly.
It's cool. It was. I just remember the last times I flew in. That's what you would see, and I mean, you're literally making eye contact with these folks because of the way that Jaeger's positioned.
There's two ways of getting in Jaeger, down and up. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, literally, yeah. It's literally down and up. So, buddy, thanks for joining us today. And like we always start off the show, and again, Jake Ricks from the Hazard Class Podcast. Want to give him a shout out for this concept. But let's start with a fun fact, Ryan. Something that a lot of folks may not know about you.
Fun fact is I started my media slash international teaching slash podcast slash article writing thanks to a young man that's sitting beside me on this TV screen. So we'll go back to Firehouse, Baltimore, 2009, and I was a firefighter paramedic for the city. I was getting bored because I'd reached all my goals. I became a paramedic. I became a journeyman firefighter. I'd got a chance to ride on the rescue truck. And our good friend Rich Gasway gave me some free passes to Baltimore. And the very first night there, I sat down beside this. Are you on this side or that side, Pete? Whichever side you're on.
I'm over here, I think.
I sat down beside Peter Matthews. And the first thing thought of was, man, I recognize that voice. That is the young man from radio at firehouse.com. And I was blown away. I felt like I was sitting beside a superstar. And before I left that conference, I actually got to sit in on my very first podcast. I think it was engine companies, short staff engine companies,
I believe so,
and
yeah.
that started me down this journey that I will be forever ever grateful for you, Peter.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. It's Yeah, that was a fun week. The Rusty Scupper, they sat you next to me, and here we are. So 2009. Sorry, it's almost 20 years, but not quite there. So,
Yep.
but yeah, and it's been fun to watch your journey, all the things that you've been involved with, the places you've been. Um, so let's get into today's show, buddy. I think one of the things we've been talking about a little bit lately is this whole firefighter first concept, right? I think a lot of folks forget where they come from, and it's not a bad thing, right? But
Mm-mm.
um, you got started with the use from the jump seat, right? And that was at the time it was a cool name, it was a great logo or a series of logos that you went through, but more importantly, that is the foundation of everybody's fire service career. You have to be a firefighter first, and you have to remember where you came from. And the views from the jump seat was to kind of help those firefighters that were riding in the back seat to get to the next level, to better off who they are and where they're going and increase their training, etc. But the firefighter first thing that you and I started talking about recently, I think it's very important again because you do have to reflect on your roots. Doesn't matter if you're a lieutenant, captain, a chief, assistant chief, whatever role you're in, or even if you're like in the dispatch center or something like that,
Sure.
you do have to remember that, you know, the bulk of the fire service, we talk about that here all the time. We always focus on chiefs, right? Because they're the decision makers. 80% of the fire service is firefighters, right? So that's where you come from. That's the root of the fire service. So talk about that and how that's kind of evolved throughout your career as you've moved up, as you've promoted. And also too, really, when you teach, I mean, you still tend to teach to the firefighter level because it doesn't matter if you're a battalion chief, a lieutenant, or a firefighter, those street skills still have to be the same, right?
But it's all started with the views from the jump seat. It was there in 2009 that I came up with that concept. It's because I was attending the Baltimore Expo in '09, and it was like leading and leadership and command and decision making and blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, where the freak is the views from the jump seat? Because it was kind of an epiphany. It's like, why am I talking about being a commander when I haven't figured out how to be a firefighter first? And that's when you asked me to come on the show and we kind of circle back around is no matter what our decisions are, no matter what rank you are, it always starts with being a firefighter. I may be a battalion chief, but I'm still a firefighter. And it kind of smacked me across the face as we're planning on purchasing a new buggy for the battalion chief. And they're like, I don't need a water can. I don't need a set of irons. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need this. And the chief's kind of looked at me and said, Ryan, what if you roll up on a work and fire and you need to go? I'm like, yeah, you're right. I need to be a firefighter first. So continuing on with the views from the jump seat stuff in the firefighter focused or firefighter first, is I think most of our decisions should be based around where the service gets delivered. It's not the battalion chief on the ambulance. It's not the battalion chief in the jump seat. It's not the battalion chief riding the front seat of the fire truck. So no matter what our decisions or training, or it should be firefighter focused. So that way, we're still delivering what we're here to do, and that's deliver service, whether that's fire, EMS, rescue, or anything, or hazmat.
Okay. All right. And how do you, as you promote, how do you instill that that's your core value as being a firefighter?
You and I had this conversation before we hit record, and everybody wants to talk about leadership, and everybody wants to talk about command, and everybody wants. I don't. I listen, and this is solely Ryan's opinion. I mean, this is my microphone. I get my 30 seconds on it. I really don't feel. I don't really think you figure out what kind of leader you're going to be till you're the man in the arena, face down with mud and blood, whatever that Roosevelt quote is. I don't think you figure out your leadership style until you get into the firehouse, and you need to be very adaptive. My very first assignment as a captain did not go anywhere near what I thought I'd planned because I went in like gangbusters. We're going to train. We're going to do this, and you're lazy about this. And they basically ran me out with the head on my spit. Now, my second assignment, I walked in with a bunch of senior firefighters, and I basically said nothing because they had everything ran. And I think as you're going through this process of being a junior firefighter, being the senior firefighter, being a junior lieutenant, all needs to go back to delivery of service. Number one, first and foremost, everyone, whether you're Johnny Junior first year or senior fireman, I think it comes with being humble and understand that people judge you on your actions, not your words. And I'll give you an example. So, like, we have rookie firefighters coming in. We have a pretty stringent test at 1 year. At the end of the first year, you have to do your job skills. So it's about an hour-long test. It's all job skills related: throwing ladders, forcing doors, climbing aerials, making rescues, RIT conversions. And I love putting my gear on and doing those skills with them. Now, number first and foremost, you need to understand that 50 years old, I'm not going to perform like the 24-year-old Ryan that you met so many years ago. But at the same time, I have enough humbleness in myself to allow myself to screw up in front of other people, but then prove to them that I'm still going to put my gear on and still be a firefighter first. And I really think that no matter what rank you're at, it starts there. Listen, I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. We're here as a team to primarily deliver a service. And when I can't pull my weight, how can I expect you to follow me if I can't even do it myself? So I think that's where it starts.
Okay. All right. And yeah, the leadership thing, right? It's interesting. And I say this tongue in cheek, right? But there's obviously a problem with leadership in the fire service. And the reason I say that is um, we get submissions every week from firefighters and from entry level officers talking about the need for better leadership and the way leadership should be. So can they? We don't publish the majority of it, right? Because again, they're talking about what leaders should do. They're not walking in their shoes. They're just talking about what they want to see from leaders, right? And from that regard, um, we had Mark Elon on a podcast a while back, and he was kind of talking about his time as an acting chief until he became battalion chief, and that common theme of if I knew what I knew after 5 months of acting chief, I wouldn't say half the stuff I say in the firehouse, right? And you hear that. I mean, I was talking to somebody about this the other day at the SOA conference. When I worked for the newspaper, I suggested that we start bringing in all the photographers to the assignment desk per week so they understood the ridiculous requests that we were making because we're not out there. We're assuming, we're understanding what they're telling us is what we're formulating our plan, right? It's kind of like having command down the street, right? I don't see what you see. I only know what you're telling me. So I'm formulating a plan based on what you're telling me. So when you have somebody it's an article 8 years into the fire service or 3 years into the fire service, they're a firefighter, and they're talking about fire service leadership, what it needs to be and how it should be done. You don't want to devalue that, right? Because I think sometimes, I don't want to say it's a cry for help, but it's a plead for some assistance to say, hey, listen, our leadership isn't getting it, but we don't want to necessarily air your dirty laundry, right? That's that, and I don't want to even say that's what social media is for, because that happens and it actually makes organizations look really bad. Even if there is a leadership issue, it reflects on that 80% who are the firefighters. It doesn't necessarily reflect on the 20% of the department who's the leadership. Um, so yeah, there is definitely a leadership challenge, but there's a leadership challenge in every company in this world right now because we as humans are changing. The values of the organization, the values of the people are changing. So there's a leadership issue. It's not just the fire service, right? And again, you have to bring politics into it, right? Because politics, um, you could have a candid conversation 20 years ago in a firehouse at a kitchen table. You could be this color or that color, politically, and have a conversation, and so be it. But now it starts as a conversation at the table about what happened last week, in Congress or whatever it is. And then next thing you know, that fight goes on to Facebook, and then it's being drug out. So just this world has changed. So being a leader today is, I think, more challenging than ever before. And I'm sure they said that 20, 30 years ago too, right? It's like technology is evolving and everything else. So, you know, what is it that as you're transitioning into the battalion chief role, what are some of those things that the firefighters don't necessarily see, right? And I know we've talked about it before, staffing, right? You spend a lot of time, and it's not you, it's every chief I talk to. They're always trying to fill a schedule, and they're trying to find the right people for the right assignment. And it's tough, So what are some of those things that you wish your firefighters or even your, first-rate company officers really truly understand about the role of a chief in what you do and why you do it?
Man, that was a lot. That was a
Sorry,
lot, Pete.
sorry, a lot of
Man,
questions at once. We'll
all
go
right.
back.
So let's backtrack a little bit before I talk about the chief stuff. Is number one, I was that person. I had all the answers to all the questions because I knew everything and I thought I knew everything until one thing happened. I got promoted and it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. First and foremost, if you think you have a leadership issue, you probably have a firefighter issue. I'm going to put that right out because there's only one person you can control, and it's this person. And I go back to some, and I'm going to throw him right here under the bus right now. Go look up Eric Wheaton from ventinnersearch.com. He is the model that I try to model and try to direct people to go look because you will see him in his turnout gear, doing his workout, doing his skills. And guess how many people were around him when he started? None. He was doing it by himself. Now, he did publish it on the internet because that is part of what the life that we live. And now look back, he's a battalion chief, and it's not just him anymore, it's his whole entire station. So I think if you think you have a leadership issue, most of you cannot control that until you get ready to get promoted. What you can control is how fit you are, how prepared you are, and bring that focus back into the firehouse. Because trust me when I say you can change a lot of things from the firefighter level. Now, your other question is, what do I wish that people thought or knew about the battalion chief? Man, I don't know. It's just that I have a boss too, and I'll give you an example. We had a call the other day, and I made a bad call on the radio, and I got a text message from the fire chief says, "Nope, you handle this, I'll handle that." And my first words is, "I'm sorry, it was my fault. Won't happen again." That's how you stay married for 26 years. So if you think that I'm out here running rampant with nobody to answer to, you're wrong. I do have bosses. We all have bosses. You have a boss. I have a boss. So and understand that, and just understand that you need to give somebody time to make a decision. So that's something else. Because listen, the one gear that firefighters don't have is reverse. So give me a few seconds to collect my thoughts. If we're not operating under standard operating guidelines, like first due takes the front, second due is the water supply. If I have to make a decision, I don't need you yelling at me on the radio, "Hey, chief, 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 chief." I'm like, listen, no, I know your capabilities. I'll get you in the game as soon as possible, but I need to have the time to make those decisions. So I think those are the three things. There are a couple things that stand out the most is I know what your capabilities are, and I'm not going to not use you because I don't like Peter Matthews' haircut. No, I've got a certain responsibility to put people to work, and just give me the chance what you know what I'm saying is I don't have a personal
Yeah.
vendetta against you, but I'm gonna try to get as many people to work as fast as possible in the direction that the mission needs to accomplish. So that's probably all I've really noticed so far is those couple of things being.
Okay. And then, from that, um, your network is very wide. You've certainly cast a net over the years, and I know you guys have had, the Firehouse Kitchen Table and some of these other peer support groups. I mean, from that leadership side, what is the overarching quote unquote issue, right? What is that one thing that you're seeing if you talk to a firefighter from California and somebody else from Utah and somebody from Minnesota and then
I think it's
Florida?
regionally. I really
Is
think
it?
it's a regional issue. I mean, I really do, because it seems like the California folks are talking about the same things with the California folks and like the Texas folks. I don't really think there's an overarching, and I would attest that to being under serving under different leaders, because there are folks that do get it. I mean, Chief Mo in Nashville, I tell him all the time, if I get fired from Charleston, I'm coming to work for you. Period. Dot. Chief Walt Lewis, who works for the Orlando airport, I'd work for him in a heartbeat. The feller that we talked to was at San Antonio. About 3 seconds talking to that chief, I'm like, oh wow, okay. So I really think it's more of a if it's regionally or it's just locally, because each of us deal with different things. Charleston's well staffed. A lot of people struggle with staffing. And then I don't know. I really think it's an individual thing. And here's something else that I kind of found up with myself is I read a book by Brene Brown, and she always called it the crappy first draft. Quit telling yourself stories. And if you find yourself going down this road, is what you're telling yourself reality, or are you making that up in your head? Does the chief really not like you, or it just so happens that you weren't chosen for that for this? So trying to stick to facts when you're making those decisions, whether it's either up the chain of command or down the chain of command.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. That's part of one of the conversations that Dennis Compton had last week at the FDSOA conference. He was talking about when he was chief, there was important messages that nobody wanted to hear. The best way to
Facts.
get that message out was to stamp it confidential and leave it in the copy machine. And he said he would leave it at 5 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock in the morning, everybody would know what they needed to know, and they wanted to know it because it was confidential, right? And again, uh, it's just it's hysterical to hear that, right? Because again, obviously technology now you put it on text, but he said even in that, the conversations he has with other folks, you can put it out via text and email and Twitter and everything else, and the important messages people aren't necessarily hearing. They're hearing what they want to hear, or they're
Facts.
hearing your summation of it, but you are enraged at whatever happened 8 years ago. So you're enraged, but you're passing along your version of it, right? Tell a phone, tell a friend, tell a firefighter.
Tell a fireman.
Yeah, so there's that version of it. Um, but I mean, again, I think a lot of it does come back to communications, right? And I think again, as a society, um, as a
transparency and
whole, yeah,
transparency and consistency.
yeah,
The two
yeah,
things that I've got. I learned that as the captain. I mean, I did. It's like I'm going to be transparent. This is why we did it. This is how come I did it, and this is the what's the reason why we did it that way.
yeah,
And then just be consistent with your message.
yeah.
I really think that solves the world's problems, because I'm not hiding this from you. I'm not giving Joe over there or Johnny or whomever an attaboy. This is the reason why I made that decision. I carried that right along to being a chief. And trust me, I haven't got this chief thing figured out at all. I mean, we had this discussion. My first hazmat response did not go quite as well, but I go back to my first USAR shoring job. It went horribly. Now, the last USAR shoring job I did, I sent you pictures of, my guys were just flawless. So we
Yeah.
are improving. And don't think that I've got this figured out, but I want to be able to be transparent and consistent with my message. This is the reason why I made that decision, and this was the determining factors on why we did. So,
No, I think that's key, right? And actually, I was just the other day I was proofing an article for the February issue, and the tech rescue column for the next couple months is off from a little bit. We're not necessarily talking about the down and dirty, no pun intended, but in the trenches type tech rescue content. This stuff is more about how to develop as a company officer or a team leader in the tech rescue realm. This is based on a conversation I had about a year ago at the Fire Chiefs Summit, 2 years ago, actually now in Illinois, a year and a half or. Colorado. I was talking to a special ops chief, and he said he's having a hard time finding members to take that because as much as people love the job, they're not dedicated to the job
hmm,
to the point that they want to take all these, 40-hour classes. And so he's got great firefighting officers who are filling the role, but when it comes time to run a tech rescue incident, they're not able to fill in the gaps. So this is the first one that's coming out is Christian Brown and Jeffrey Mondo, and they're just kind of talking about how to get how to operate as an officer on scene. The other one's going to be about how to select officers. Um, so again, it's that level of commitment that you have. And I mean, we talk about it with our mutual friends and FDNY, right? Like when you are a special ops member, whether you're a squad or a rescue firefighter, and then you promote, they put you back in the field
Jim Pop.
because you have to get that basic engine and truck experience, right? Just like when you come out of the academy, it's a few years. I mean, obviously that department's so big that they will put you in a truck right away. Um, but that's like going from the engine to the truck is an unofficial promotion, right? You've
Mm.
gained the basic skills of firefighting on the engine side. And again, because it's not so SOP driven, it simply is SOP driven in New York City. But when you leave SOC, you know, you have to at some point come back because you need a dedicated, educated, trained leader. And again, you're not like the article said the other day, you're not tying the ropes. You're not deciding on which system to use, but you have to be able to understand and say, hey, okay, let's step back, let's look at this, let's do that. So when you look at something like that, and again, you're a fairly small department, you're a mid-sized department, but you're what 8 stations, right?
Yep, 8
Um,
stations.
but you run everything in that city, from tech rescue. You've got the USAR resources. So again, if one of you, if it was the B shift and that chief had never been involved in USAR stuff, and you have this incident, obviously you have the members on scene, but the chief has to have a good understanding of what it is. And I think that comes with experience. But that hazmat run that you went on with the safe, how many people are going to do that? And hopefully you will write that piece. I know you've been wanting to do some writing, so I'm gonna hold you to this on January 16, 2026,
It's so
11:34
funny
a.m.
that you
Central
chose that
Time.
example though, Pete, because you and I talk quite often. But since I became the battalion chief, our truck and our rescue are my two special operations companies. They're my two service companies, and I've made it so you can't just ride it. You just
Yeah,
can't just ride it. I'm not going to
yeah,
let you ride it. And I'll give an example, and why trying to what really kind of put me over the edge with this is about a half an hour east, about a half an hour west of us. They had a tractor trailer come off the bridge, and it made national news. And they were hanging there, and they had to do a special operations pick off 100 feet in the air from a tractor trailer, suspended. And reviewing that call, they had to call for specialty companies with special operators on us, technical rescue folks. And I was like, I came back to I got really blessed this year once I took over for being a battalion chief. We have a 24-hour safety officer who's also my training officer, who is also a spec rescue person. So, and I'm
even
like,
better.
give me your expectation. If this happens tomorrow in my city, what time frame is it going to take us to do that? And how do we best accomplish that? And then what are the classes skills needed for us to accomplish that in a timely manner? He laid it out and it just kind of reiterated in order to ride my two special operations companies, you're going to need to be auto extrication technician, confined space technician, rope technician, blah, 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 blah. So what I did is I've got my currently assigned, but then I have my backups. Well, guess what? Folks started seeing they want to ride those trucks. They went and started getting the SOC training. They went and
Oh
got
wow,
high angle rescue. So now not only do I've got my first line, second line, I've got a third string special operators now. And it becomes, and probably because it is of our size, because those are the folks I depend on. I mean,
yeah,
those are the folks. And listen, I'm not downgrading engine captain, truck captain, whatever, whatever. But when it comes to that tractor trailer, we run a lot of dive calls because of our rivers. And let me tell you how much I know about diving. I can hold my nose and go under. That's about it. So I really need to be able to trust my special operators. So developing that ahead of time. And now what I have done is in all fairness, I'm a collapse rescue technician. I've had all my technician stuff. It's been a while since I've been in in services because I've been on an engine company the whole time. So building that relationship before the bell happens has paid off. It paid off on that safe call. It really
yeah,
did.
yeah. And even that, like I remember a city, they had two rescue companies, and you had to do it. I think it was a 3-year commitment was the deal. There was so many personality conflicts. The guy was telling me there's so many personality conflicts that eventually, one guy would be on engine two, and there'd be a guy on truck three, and another guy on engine four, and a guy on engine five. And when they'd have a tech rescue incident, all those companies would come. Essentially, the rescue would respond as the rolling toolbox, right?
Right.
But then each company would come, drop off their member of the tech rescue team, go back in service. So, that's again, like and I don't know the background enough to say like, was it a leadership issue? But they weren't getting along. Obviously, they were able to do the work when the tech rescue incidents came in. But I mean, you lose all that synergy. They're not training together, right? So you
Right.
do have to know that, right? I think you hear that on every show, especially when you talk to the veterans from the 70s and 80s. Like, we call Joe and Mike because we knew no matter what it was, they were going to make the push. They were going to get down the hall. They were going to get over whatever it was. Um, And that's, I mean, I think that's a tough call, especially on a battalion chief level. Um, I think, you might know your company, but and I think you do because you know everybody on the job. But on a larger scale job, you just have to know that Engine 5 is the company to be.
See, but
Like,
that circles back around to our topic, though.
yeah,
It's because these people let their egos and their agendas get in their way, and they've lost focus on being firefighters.
yeah, yeah,
I swear that's why I'm so passionate about it. Listen, I can have my opinion about anything because we're firefighters. Just ask. We have opinions about everything. But at the end of the day, when that bell rings, I still have to put my turnout gear on, my special rescue stuff, my swift water or whatever it is, and still go function in it. And we lose fact that we can have fights. Peter Matthews has been mad at Ryan Pennington. Ryan Pennington's been mad at Peter Matthews, but it doesn't affect our friendship. And at
yeah,
the end of the day, we still need to focus on delivering the service. Are there people in the job that I don't like? Sure. Is there people in the job that don't like me? For sure. But I tell you what, when that bell hits, it has to go out the window. When it's time to go train, it has to go out the window. It has to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Agree 100%. But again, it's just I think you know the the strong personalities of the past have just become simply personalities, and I think I don't know. I work from home, right? So it's my interactions with colleagues are at events, and we're always so
Right.
busy, right? So you don't have a lot of that time. But when you do go visit stations, or when I do go to a conference, I mean, you can see. I mean, there's definitely that tension, and it shouldn't be that way. And I mean, unfortunately, I've been to some stations where nobody comes out, and it's not because they're on their phones. It's just there is such
Disconnect. It's because you said
yeah,
because you allow that to happen.
yeah,
I'm telling you, I tried my best. Not every company that I was in, from lieutenant to captain, we hung out together. And I
yeah.
just think it's important for us to hang out together. And if they go slump up in their room somewhere, I'm the first one knocking on the door and say, "Hey, what are you doing in there? Why are you back here? Hey, oh, what's going on?"
Yeah,
And the thing about it is it's not because I'm nosy. It's because I think it's important.
yeah,
And hopefully in your system, with being a medium size or a smaller size city like ours, our bid system, it can confine you. I mean, it's all seniority based. It sucks when you don't have it, but by gosh, when you have it, you can go where you want and get with the people you want. But at the same time, it's like hanging out that kitchen table. And I'm telling you, I mean, unfortunately, you left Station 7 that day before we got a chance to feed you, and I'll never hear the end of that one.
no, it's all good. It's all good. It was still a
But
great visit.
and let everyone know we had a cardiac arrest right as it's time for him to make his flight, so he didn't get a chance to finish the dinner we were promising him at Station 7. So, but I mean, that kitchen table at Engine 8, that was the hub. I
Yeah,
mean, my little driver can cook like Emerald Lagasse, but I mean, that was the hub of it. And you really need to promote that for the wellness of your crew, whether it's mental health wellness or whether it's performance wellness, because I mean, you're spending a third of your life with you. And in the volunteer service, I think it even becomes even more important in the volunteer service
yeah,
because
yep,
you're only seeing them once a week.
yep. And you have to build that level, and it's funny, Brandon. I was just thinking about that. Like again, it's been 20 years since I was in the volunteers, but um, we were responding from home, and we had a mix of folks. We had FDNY folks, we had NYPD folks, we had teachers, this, that, the other thing. Two of us at one point had worked for Firehouse. Um, But as often as we could, we would go down to the firehouse and break bread. And it wasn't on drill night, but even on drill night, we tried to make an effort, like come down a half hour early or stay a half hour late, and let's just break bread and sit around and BS and learn what's going on in everybody's life and answer any questions. And inevitably, those conversations, uh, like we had a very interesting time right after September 11th. We had a lot of people. So the 11th was a Tuesday. Monday night was the second Monday of the month. So the following Monday, right? So September whatever 17th, we had like five people join the fire company, right? And so they're like, "Whoa, what am I getting into?" And we were, our department was bringing supplies back and forth, and we had a lot of our members who were on the job in the city, whether it was fire, police, Port Authority, et cetera, EMS. Um, so we had a lot of people coming and going, and so they're joining, and like the first thing they're seeing us do is go to these funerals, and these funeral announcements are going out, and like, hey, if you can make this. So fast forward um, a year later, um, one of the guys was in a neighboring department was killed in a drill. They were packing hose, and this guy's named Al Fry for Roswell Rescue Fire Company. They were packing hose at a drill. Impaired driver struck him and another guy, sent them both in the air. Unfortunately, Al didn't make it. The next week, we got like six more people in, and again, six people even 20 years ago
A
is a
lot.
substantial number. So you're trying, and I was a lieutenant at that time. So you're trying to balance life. This is going on. I was up in Boston with Harvey Eisner. We were at the Boston Sparks when Al got struck. So I had to come back and find out what's going on. They're like, hey, we got a big funeral. And they're like, what happened? Like, oh, firefighter got struck and killed. And these people are coming in. So fast forward, it's only a few months later. We swear a couple members in on a Monday night, and like 20, 30 minutes later, we get a call. There was a gentleman was struck by a car, literally where down the block where actually it was the same block where Big Al was struck and killed. And it was one of the bloodiest scenes I've ever been to. I mean, this guy was run over. It was a nasty
Bad.
scene. And these two people who had never been on a call before, we took them on the ambulance. One was like, not for me, I'm out. You know, you try to have this conversation. And this was before any discussion about mental health or anything else came up. The other guy goes, I don't know if I can do this. Said, hey, all right, let's talk about it. You know, like, and again, we don't call somebody if you need help. We didn't have a hotline at that time. We didn't have a peer
Right.
support program. So I said, dude, when are you free again? He says, Wednesday night. I said, all right. I said, before drill, come down a half hour early. You know, brought coffee, whatever it was. We just sat there and talked about it. And I am by no means an expert in anything, but I knew right off the bat that we already lost a member, you know, not even 3 hours into the company. And you know what? Honestly, I'm glad they were able to see, hey, it's not for me, and they stepped out right away. Um, you know, and I'm glad, honestly, that the night of that everybody that was there that night was people that really volunteered for the right reasons. We cared about our members as much as we cared about the citizens. So start talking to this gentleman about it. You know, we spoke a couple days later. Saturday we came down. He wanted to see some stuff before he went to the academy a few weeks later. So we spent some time. We were talking about stuff. He's like, you know, what did you ever, you know, what's the worst thing you've ever seen, right? That's always the worst conversation. That's always the worst thing to
You
ask.
don't want to know. You don't want
Yeah.
to
And,
know.
but I said, listen, I said, I was like, I think I was 6 or 7, literally right down a block from my house. The pager went off, came over for a sick person. My dad takes me, pops open the front of the pickup truck, and it was the guy that committed suicide, shot himself in the head. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. You know, and again, I don't know how to process. There was nothing to process at that point. It was just like, wow, I saw this. And he goes, go across the street, right, whatever. So since I was a kid, I was exposed to this stuff. So, you know, it is what it is. Um, but we had some really interesting conversations, and this guy waffled for like a year. He's like a detective now with the NYPD, you know.
Hmm.
So, but it is interesting because you do have to get your members, and especially on the volunteer side, you know, you go to a call, you know, you go to that midnight wreck, right? You get back from the hospital 1:30, everything's cleaned up. What do? You go home and go to work. You don't have that opportunity at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock when
Decompress.
everybody rises, like just to talk about it in the morning. And I think honestly, I think that's something that's got to be addressed too on the volunteer side is that, you know, I got to get home, I got to get back to my family, I got to get back to work, whatever it is. That stuff that builds up and people don't talk about it, right? And again, if you miss 2 drill nights, like when I used to work nights, I rarely made a drill. You know, I had to follow up with everybody on the old Nextel to find out what was going on. But think about that. If you had somebody that's exposed to a lot of this stuff, or just getting bad information, like they go on a call and they get hammered, but they don't know what they're getting hammered about. Um, it goes back to transparency, like you said before, but more importantly, communication. But it's having open two-way communication, I think that is critical in that element of it.
It all goes back to being firefighter focused, Pete.
That's right. Yep,
It
yep,
is,
yep.
and I mean, it really is. And I can't stand firefighters with egos. I cannot stand it. You are not that good. And listen, I mean, if you got some kind of ego because you think you're much better than I am, sure, go ahead. But your ego shouldn't come from that. Your ego should become, are you a better father than I am? Are you a better husband or a wife than I am? Are you a better a leader of men? Did somebody that you lead become a great firefighter or a professional athlete? Because I think your ego needs to come from what you leave or what you support. I truly believe that my biggest accomplishments, as much as it's fire service, and I've been on the stage at Firehouse, I've been on the stage in San Diego, I've been on the stage in Nova Scotia, Canada, or Alberta, Canada. But you know what? Some of my biggest accomplishments have been in the fire service is getting young men and women hired. And some of them are starting to promote. I mean, one
Yeah.
of them's getting ready to move from lieutenant to captain. That's one of my biggest things. When he showed up at my front door on my in my garage, after about 30 seconds of working out, he was doubled over, puking his guts out. And now he's getting ready to lead a company. I really think that's
That's
where
fun.
our ego should come from. And it's my and the fire service, man, I tell you, you and I've been at this a long time. And if you get a little bit of quote unquote fame, I've seen that ruin people. Let's say that you've got 10,000 Twitter followers or 10,000 Instagram followers. That means people want to hear what you want to say. That's not somebody giving you a salute that you're better than what they are. And we need to use that responsibly. We really do. And it's like, I really think that what I kept priding myself on as an instructor is, and if you've attended my classes, I'll show you videos. I won't show you videos of Peter Matthews in Fort Worth, Texas doing something bad. I'm going to show you some videos. And guess who that person in that video doing and the bad stuff is? Oh, wait, it's
It's
me.
you. It's you.
And
Yeah.
the thing about it is I really think as junior firefighters, senior firefighters, junior lieutenants, senior chiefs, that if we keep that humbleness about us to keeping it firefighter focused on delivering the mission, what is it, the mission, the men and me, something like
Yeah.
that. And it really
Yeah.
it really rings true. And we need to keep ourselves focused on, especially with the mental health being such a big thing. And let me tell you, until you've done CPR on one of your members from your fire department, yeah, don't ask me what the worst thing is I've seen. I've had to do CPR on two different Charleston firefighters, and it's as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I leaned on was the men and women inside the firehouse. So let's make it about that and them and before us, especially.
Yeah. And it, again, like you said before, it goes back to firefighter first because it doesn't matter if you're a chief. I mean, riding in New York City, I was very lucky growing up in the city. I was able to ride there in the 90s, at kind of the tail end of the war years. And it didn't matter if it was a firehouse with just an engine or an engine and a truck or an engine truck chief or whatever it was. Everybody starts and ends the tour in the kitchen, right? And
That's
that's
right.
that's that's the firefighter's gathering place. And firefighter doesn't really matter what your title is. In the kitchen doesn't matter what your title is, right? I mean, I've seen some chiefs that, throw down some amazing meals. But I've also seen places where the officers come in and they'll sit there for coffee and then you don't see them again till lunch or dinner or unless there's a run. And understandably, there's admin work that needs to be done. But if you quickly forget, where you are and where you came from, it's definitely a challenge, and I think that's key. And even the ego thing, I love what you said because, like, I'm gonna like the Getting Salty podcast, right? It's amazing. So where I used to ride in Brooklyn as a kid, a lot of their guests worked in that house. I rode with a lot of those guys over the years. One of them was the commissioner for a week. He was deputy commissioner. And but they've made a lot of people from that house. And that's the thing is like they still go back to that firehouse every year for all the events, like no matter where they are in the organization, because they entered the doors of that firehouse as a firefighter and they built, that they were built up by other great firefighters office. And again, this is where the term we talk about that when we have new editors here. Yeah, they're fire like in the headline we'll use firefighters. We won't necessarily say assistant chief, we'll use chief. We can flex the words a little bit, but at the end of the day, everyone's a firefighter, and you doesn't matter. I mean, unless you're civilian, like a commissioner.
Right.
Or something like that.
It's so funny that you say
But
that because my first time meeting John Norman, I'm like, I had no clue who the guy was. Just so
mhm.
happens I walked out and I walked in this guy. Oh, hey, what's your name? My name's Ryan, firefighter for Charleston, West Virginia. Hey, my name's John Norman.
Okay,
Went back to my classroom. I'm like, well, that feller looked like a pretty neat feller. Well, let's
yeah,
Google him. I'm like, what? What? The special operations that led the 9/11 recovery? And I mean, I was like, I thought I just meant the guy that's painted my house. But I mean, if
yeah.
anybody should have an ego, that guy probably would. But he was the most humblest. And to this day, he still remembers my name, still remembers where I come from. And I talked to him just the other day. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? And it's like, that is the example of what I want to be, period.
So a funny John Norman story, right? So here it is, the thick of everything after 9/11. So my best friend at the time was on a job in a city, and he just got off the 30-day detail at the site. So for 12 hours a day for 30 days, um, he was there, right? So I think September 12th or 13th, when I forget, it was within the first 2 to 3 days they organized this detail. So for 30 days, 12 hours a day, that doesn't include commuting. You had to be on the site at whatever the time was. So he and I, again, breaking bread, right? Like he's like, dude, I'm done Thursday. All right, cool. We'll go out for dinner Thursday. We're not going to go get pizza and Chinese in town. We're going to go a little something different. Um, he needed to talk, whatever. So we're leaving. We hear in a pager, working fire in Mineola. Mineola for us was a great place to buff over the years, 15 minutes away. It was a Mexican supermarket, man, and this thing was going, and it just you could see the smoke from miles away. So we're walking up, and there's a guy in a job shirt, just kind of sitting up on a bollard across the parking lot, and it's John Norman. And I'm like, and then so my buddy knew him. He was only, I think he was what, 2 years on the job at the time. He knew who he was, and I said, "Hey, Chief, how you doing?" He goes, he's looking around. He goes, "All right." He goes, I needed a fire. I just needed something different." And here it was. He probably spent 18 hours at the site. Before he was on his way home, a fire came in, and he was just sitting there watching it. Right? And he's like, I just need to see a fire. And so, we chatted with him for a bit. I introduced him to my buddy and buddy and I we like, "Hey, you want to come to dinner?" He's like, "I gotta get home." So we leave, and as we're driving away, he goes, like, that's I think at the time he was the assistant chief or chief of, I forget what his title was at the time. But yeah, I mean, he was an experienced guy in Rescue 1, Rescue 2, a lot of stuff. Here he is, having been at the site all day, and what does he want to see? A fire. Why? Because that's what you do. That's
I
who you are. It's in your system. And he was talking to the guys afterward, and it was the same reaction as we had. Like, doesn't this guy have something better to do? But
no,
it's in
we
his blood.
don't. Yeah, we
It's in his
don't.
blood. And
I-
he didn't want to see a tire rescue incident. He's seen it every day. And I remember it was a very movie. Like I can picture it in my mind, like walking up. And I think, I mean, just honest to God, probably because there was funerals and wakes going on that night. Like that was a time where it was tough to find members to turn out because everybody was at wakes. And this was a night that, like, for whatever, I mean, I went every day, every night. Um, and it was probably because he was out and my buddy was off. And I was like, you know what, we'll skip something, whatever. And they only had two lines down, but he was already there. And I remember walking up and just seeing this lone guy. I'm like, who the hell is this? And it's him. But again, he needed to see the guys at work. He just needed to go back to the root of his organization. He was in the volleys before he got in the city. So, that's it. Just it's a crazy John Norman story. It's funny you bring that up, and just the irony, it kind of brings it again full circle of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it's just the humbleness of somebody like him. And trust me, when you get to 50,000 followers, and I mean, at the height of my podcast and the height of my writing for Firehouse, I go down to Firehouse Expo and everybody like, let me get a selfie with Ryan and let me get your autograph. And he wrote a book and blah, 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 blah. I tell you, some people can feed off that and think there's something better than what they were. And I can see it happening. I see it happen. And it's so funny that our good buddy Rich Gasaway said that you don't want to be the brightest star on the stage in this business because the brightest star will burn out. You want to shoot for consistency and longevity. And look how long he's been teaching at the game. So I kind of modeled myself after him and being kind of in the background of most of this people, but delivering a constant, consistent message, whether it be in the hoarding thing or the views from the jump seat, or the best class I ever taught at Firehouse was aggressively positive when your bosses showed up. And I got
Oh
so
yeah,
freaking
yeah, yeah,
nervous.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, you need to have this conversation with the rest of our, uh,
The company, yeah,
yeah.
the company and
And
the team at that time, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean, like six of your executives showed up. And the only thing I
yeah.
talked about is like, listen, I don't know. And maybe it comes with wisdom. And I hate that wisdom comes with age because I wish I was a little bit wiser when I was younger. But I mean, it just goes to show that, listen, I'm not here for me. And I told somebody the other day, and I'm like, listen, thanks to Peter Matthews and Rich Gasaway, and I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. I've been on the big stages, I've been here, been there, been there, and none of it means nothing except for in this next time that I'm leaving, hopefully, maybe in 377 days, if anybody's counting, I've got to leave the fire service. And did I leave it better than I found it? And then who can carry my message and my mission and changes on to the next person? So I've actually I don't even think I've told you this yet. So the other day I sat down. getting kind of emotional about leaving the fire service. So, yeah, I kind of got emotional. And you know that I don't write very well. You are a very
Yep,
good
yep,
editor.
true.
You make it very make it very well. But I actually gave the syllabus for my fourth and final book.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
it's the transition book, transitioning from the jump seat to the chief seat. So now, do I want to write it? Do you want to edit it? Probably not. Do I want to speak it to a microphone, have it translated from Ryan to English? Maybe. But it's like, what can you do to me leave it better than what you found it? And I really think that that's what John Norman's thing is he
Yeah.
teaches these classes and we learn from it, all while being one of the most humblest persons I've ever met.
Humility goes a long ways, man. It really does. On so many levels. It
It,
really, and it shows on both sides, for you and for whoever's on the receiving end. And unfortunately, who's watching you too, right? That's another
well, in
part
this
of it.
world, everyone's watching. I tell them all the
Uh,
time, you're going to be on YouTube. So I don't know. I just really feel, and I felt like this for a long time, and it really hit me when I hit the captain level in 2020, is this job, this business, this industry has given me so much. I mean, it has. I mean, let alone that it's going to give me a pension, it's given me a paycheck, but it's given me great friendships with Peter Matthews or Sean Egan from Buffalo Fire or Andy Starnes from Charlotte Fire. I mean, those are the things that I take back from all this. And Jimmy from National Fire Radio. I love having these guys on my Rolodex because if I need a charge, I'll call Jason Patton from Fire Department Chronicles. I mean, that is the biggest takeaway that comes from the media side of our business and something that I don't take for granted. I don't. I mean, reaching out to the chief of Worthington, Ohio, and asking him about a question, and he's one of the most wise fire chiefs that you and I have ever met is what we really need to
Absolutely.
take away from what we do with this stuff while remaining firefighter focused when we're at the job. So,
Yeah, I mean, the network, and I think we definitely have to discuss that too, is how to build your network, right? I mean, I honestly don't. I know a lot of folks that can network and schmooze, and I think you are a schmoozer that can
I'm not a
share a lot of.
smoozer. I'm a communicator. Quit you say I'm smoozing.
Well, that's old school, but I think that network is so critical, especially
Oh,
when
it's
it's critical, but when you're promoting, having the right people to give you those right answers, give you those insights, and uh, when I was on with Andy Starnes, we did the podcast right about the personal board, right? I had
right.
mentioned that, through everything in my, I guess so it's 17 years we've been friends now. You know more, you know more about me than probably 99% of the people that I know. Um, and that personal board that we all have is so critical. Um, but having that network to get those answers is just as important.
It People have a hard time doing it. I published my telephone number. Like I share my telephone number. Go look at my Facebook. You can call me, and I'm going to answer. Now, do I
Yeah,
get a bunch of scam calls? Maybe. But it's like I hate these keyboard warriors that hide behind their keyboard. I mean, I post something pretty controversial back in the Twitter sphere day about using a fog stream on the inside of a live burn. And I got murdered. They're like, you're going to kill people and people are going to turn into lobsters. And the best conversation I had was from Aaron Fields, who called me. And I'm like,
really.
okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's like, Ryan, he's like, this is not portraying the message. It's okay, Aaron, let me give you the reason why we did it. It's because I was trying something different, something that I'm not familiar with. And then he went on to explain about the theories of why we use smoothbore nozzles and big droplets on the ceiling. And I was like, hmm, all right. And it kind of goes back to the context. Maybe I should have given some context from then you post that picture of me in a full fog and a working fire. And like that. But having my telephone number published got me some connections that I'm very thankful for. That conversation with Aaron Fields, I wouldn't have not traded it for nothing. And every time I see him, hey Ryan, how are you? So I think that respect went both ways when I was explaining what I was trying to accomplish. And mainly thing I was trying to do was stir up some good conversation, which it went off the rails very fast. And I've pretty much learned that social media has actually turned toxic at this point. And I'll tell you a story off the mic what happened here locally with a local fire department. It's really, really, really bad.
I think if it's going to new heights, yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
well,
following
it
it,
did
and
go to new
it's
heights,
yeah,
and it's been very bad.
and that's the problem with social. I mean, I love social media. To be able to connect with so many people.
Right.
Um, But
But if you're truly connecting with them, you'll have my telephone number.
oh, agree 100%. But I don't think people even know how to ask that, right? Because it's
They
just I
don't.
want to text you, I want to message you on Facebook, and
Right.
like I was saying, if you start messaging me on Facebook, um, to engage in conversation, I might look at I don't even have Messenger on my phone.
No.
If I'm on the road, I might. But I take a lot of that stuff off. I had years ago, I had a guy right when I first took over the shows. I had a guy like, we're Facebook friends. How am I not speaking for you? I'm like, I have no clue who you
Right.
are. And I mean, I
Right.
don't mean any disrespect.
No,
I
right.
got this position, I got promoted, and I had 1,800 new friends overnight. Friends.
I
And
didn't realize that Facebook cuts off at 5,000. You can only have
I,
5,000 on Facebook.
well, that's a pretty solid number.
Yeah, but I
Um,
mean, but if you go to Instagram, the rest of it, it's like you're right.
yeah,
I mean, and I'm thankful for all 5,000, but at the same time, that still doesn't mean you talk to me.
yeah, yep, yeah, exactly, exactly.
And if you
Yeah.
want to talk to
So.
me, my telephone number is, you can find it. It's on the internet.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it out since we're video now, we'll put it out there. So
Well, and listen, rest in peace, Bobby Halton. He's the one I learned it from. He published his
yeah,
telephone number to everyone. And listen, if you got
yep,
a problem with what goes on in Firehouse, here's how to call me. And believe it or not, he was my sounding board more than once as well. So it's
yeah.
just, listen, I think what's wrong with social media, and I'm going to leave it at this. A lot of people don't know what it feels like to be punched in the face when they say something bad. And some of these people just need punched in the face because they can hide behind a keyboard with no ramifications. When I went to junior high from the holler to the town, I learned real quick I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I will eat my teeth. So before you post that derogatory comment on social media, go punch yourself in the face and remember what that feels like.
That's right. That's right. Very true. Very true. You can't say anything anymore. But well, we'll definitely we're gonna kind of close out here, but I want to get you back. I think we really need to focus on that networking. I think that's another great conversation. But if all goes well, before Ryan starts his book, we're gonna be rolling out something else here pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. But we won't give you
I'm
any.
excited for that, Peter. Thank you for the
I
opportunity.
I
Thank
am
you.
too. But I think it's important, right? We started that discussion, but again, in the end of the day, it's firefighter first is the way to go. That's got to be your foundation from beginning to end. And again, when you retire, what do? You come back to see the firefighters, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's just that's where it's at. So, all
I'll
right,
let you
buddy.
know in
All
377 days.
right, well, I'm gonna put it in my calendar. Just text me. Just
You
text
better
me.
be there for my walkout. I'm going to do a walkout and you better be there. It's all I know.
I think I might be at it. I think I've got
Yeah.
some plans
There
that
you
day,
go.
whatever day it is.
Hey, thanks
Um,
for having me on, Peter. I thank you to
Thank you.
Firehouse. Congratulations on 50 years.
Thank
To
you.
to Harvey Eisner. Thank you, Harvey, for the chance to coming on board so many years ago. Thank you to all the folks that support the Firehouse mission. I've been a proud member. I've been a little bit dormant for the last couple of years, but ready to make that comeback. I really enjoy seeing the Firehouse folks around the country, and thank you for letting me be a small part of this great organization.
Well, thanks for all you've done, and thanks for all you continue to do. Again, we will be rolling out something here soon, but I don't want to give it away because I don't know the exact time frame. So, looking forward to getting you back in the getting back in the action, and we'll be rolling that out. But until then, again, we'll be back on track after the show. We'll be up again in 2 weeks. Apologize to the regular listeners for that gap over the holidays, but we're back on schedule. We got a bunch of things lined up. So thank you so much, folks. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Firehouse Yak podcast from firehouse.com, which is produced by Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B. For more conversations, visit firehouse.com/podcast, where you can find all the shows as well as the show notes from each podcast. Or you can find us on all major podcast platforms. Stay safe, stay educated, and keep on training. Visit firehouse.com for the latest fire service news, training, and more. See you on the next one.